Jaipur Literature Festival is its 14th anniversary this year. When we started it 14 years ago, we didn't know that it'll grow into it being such a mega festival, one of the world's largest festivals. Over the years, we landed up getting thousands of authors, and of course, till recently, pre-COVID, we had 500,000 people who used to come through our doors over the 5 days in Diggi. Then COVID happened, so we said, how do we now make this a different festival? So digitally, we started JLF's Brave New World, which became a digital series watched by about 4.8 million people. So our effort now is to make the Jaipur Literature Festival available across the world from the 19th to the 28th of February. And our idea is that most sessions, of course, are recorded sitting in your home, but we wanted a sense of people to get where are we from? What is the architecture of Jaipur, the sense, the feeling of outside, the feeling of coming together as a group of people. So therefore we decided to do this recording live for a limited number of people, keeping in mind the COVID protocols. So the festival itself, of course, will be digital, it will be seen across the world, and we've got all kinds of Pulitzer, Booker Prize, Sahitya Academy, JCB prize winning authors from across the world. The biggest names you can think of are part of the festival. In India, of course, Priyanka Chopra is going to be releasing her new book, Unfinished, as part of the festival. There's Vivek Debroy, there's Pavan Verma, there's Prashun Joshi, and we've got the new film, Devashish's new book on Unga, which was based on the film with Nandita Das. There's Manoj Bajpayee reading from his work in Bhojpuri. He's making a new film, so he's based his reading on that. And of course, we've got writers from US and Brazil and Japan and Singapore and Australia, across the world.
This last year, 2020, into this edition, which is the first fully digital edition, there's been a very sharp learning curve because we had to launch 2 digital series in between. Very earlier on into the pandemic last year, we decided that audiences aren't going to be leaving the house; they're going to be locked in. So what do? And the written word was like, mother's milk to most of us. It gave us a lot of comfort, it gave us a lot of wisdom, a lot of tenacity. So we actually took the Jaipur Literature Festival, took inspiration from that, and launched JLF Brave New World, Jaipur Literature Festival, Words Are Bridges, lots of initiatives, and then we did our 3 big festivals in Canada, UK, USA, all digitally, to great acclaim. Millions of views, lots of people came on. So we've actually built, in my view, one of the largest literature lover community online. Years ago, when Mr. Modi started the Swachh Bharat initiative, and Unilever pledged 200 crores and Reckitt Benckiser then pledged 500 crores, is when the conversation started. And I went to them with my team, and we had a conversation to say, listen, if you're doing this for the country, here's a festival that brings we bring all aspects of an issue to kind of bear. You heard today, for example, Slumdog Millionaire, which is a historic Oscar-winning thing, which is written as a simple novel by Vikas Swarup. So we said, look, we bring very simple bits of writing and explode it. We look at various aspects. So that's how I got them interested. That bring your initiative of what you're doing to make India cleaner. There is not one of us in India who want a dirty India. We want great sanitation. We want a great country, which we're proud of. So I said, bring it in. And that's how it started. It started with we started with one serial or one series for them. And today, I think we are pretty much lifelong partners. So when the pandemic happened, I reached out to them. Rajesh said, sure. I said, look, protect our festival. He said, done.
this is our first virtual festival for Jaipur, though our international editions have already been recorded and broadcast in the virtual medium, and we find it has a special character. The highlights are that we have some of the greatest writers we have ever been able to invite to the Jaipur Literature Festival, because they don't have to travel all the way, they can come virtually. And we have great writers from every continent speaking about the environment, about a changing landscape, about health, about stress and anxiety, about literature, about poetry, about art, about history. So it's exactly the same sort of mix as Jaipur always had, but with a bigger, wide range and depth because of the possibilities of the digital medium. At the same time, here today we have tried to create a small island, a bubble, a cocoon of some real interactions, because it can be a bit monotonous to see everything on screen, and we don't want to forget those joys of actual human interaction. So it's the same but very different, because the possibilities of the digital medium are so immense. In January, I came out with a wonderful book called Jaipur Journals. Why it's wonderful was because it's about the Jaipur Literature Festival, and it's done very well. So that is also my new book. But my other new book is a book called Betrayed by Hope. It's a play on the life of Michael Madhusudan Dutt, which I have written with Dr. Malashri Lal. So that we had a session on that as well, and that is the latest book, but Jaipur Journals is still a new book. So I'm delighted to have worked on theatre and drama for the first time in my life.
This evening, seeing the Jaipur Literary Festival becoming even better at its best. I was at the first Jaipur Literary Festival at the Diggi Palace many years ago, and I've been to the festivals many times, as also to the Jaipur festivals abroad, in London, as well as in Boulder. And it keeps getting better and expanding and engaging more people. And today, I've seen how Sanjoy and Namita and the entire GLF and Teamworks team have taken the festival to be even more engaging, even more beautiful. And I wish them the best, so that they will be bringing a greater number of people into the world, into the spirit of the Jaipur Literary Festival. I was invited here today to discuss with Mr. Harsh Mandar his book about the lockdown and what it has done to our economy, because of what it has done to 90% of the people of this country. So if we want to grow again, and we will, but grow inclusively. And unless we grow inclusively, the growth will not be sustained. And it won't be the right growth either. So I am hoping that what we discussed today at the Jaipur Literary Festival here, the book of Mr. Harsh Mandar, is going to be providing to us an ethical compass to guide us in creating the new normal for the Indian economy. A normal in which everyone can live normally and not be living so vulnerably that a disease from somewhere else just knocks the bottom out of their life and the bottom out of our economy. But I have great hope.
I've been associated with the Jaipur Festival right from its inception, and I remember attending even the first one, which had a limited number of audience members and a small number of speakers. And I have seen it grow exponentially over the last several years. It's a very joyful, purposeful and enchanting festival, and it brings the best quality of writers and a very discerning audience together every year. Everybody is having to use the digital platform out of compulsion, and I'm very glad that JLF is continuing to present its high quality writers and programs through the digital platform. So the quality of the sessions will, I'm sure, remain consistently high, as has been the tradition at JLF. As to the audience, they will miss the interaction that happens at a live venue, and especially when the venue is as spectacular as Diggy Palace in Jaipur. But we are happy that the latest books and the best authors will once again come to the screen. One of the sessions at the current Jaipur Literature Festival is called Betrayed by Hope, a play on the life of Michael Madhusudan Dutt. And I have co-authored this play with Namita Gokhale, who is the director of the festival and a collaborative writer and a good friend for many years. It's a book which is about a 19th century poet from Bengal who was an innovator. He was the one who brought a new direction to Bengali poetry in particular, and created the well-known epic called Meghnad Bodh Kabbo. And he was also the first one to introduce blank verse and the sonnet form in Bengali poetry.
I think it's wonderful that it's being organized. People really want to come out and listen to some wonderful stuff. So I'm very happy that there's some physical events are taking place, and I'm also very happy that the kind of speakers that have been invited to speak on this. I am a writer and I do Dastan Goi, which is something that I derived from S.R. Farooqi's work, who also happened to be my uncle. So I tell stories from stage. Dastan Goi is something that I revived. It was a lost art form. I've revived it. I tell stories, I write stories, and I also write books. I was speaking about the great Urdu writer, critic, translator, editor, and poet, and fiction writer, and essayist Shamsul Rahman Farooqi, the son of the Urdu world, as we said. And I was talking about his life and his literary achievements and what he showed us. उन्होंने खुद एक शेर पढ़ा था फारूकी साहब ने, और मैं सुना देता हूँ. जैसे माइग्रेंट वर्कर्स सब जा रहे थे कि सन्नाहटे में जान के सन्नाहटे में जान के होशो हवासो दम न था, होशो हवास नहीं था, दम न था, असबाब सारा ले गया, आया था एक सैलाब सा.
It's always a pleasure to participate in the Jaipur Literature Festival because it's the greatest literary show on the planet, and it brings together top class names from the entire world. So it's always a pleasure and a privilege to be included in this fantastic lineup of authors, and not just authors. Jaipur Literature Festival is a literature-based festival, but it includes many other segments. There's theatre people as well. There's artists. There are people who are in the music field as well, in the film field as well. So I think it's basically a collection of artists from around the world to come and express their ideas and inspire others. 6 Suspects जो थी मेरी दूसरी नावल थी, ये 2008 में आई थी, और नावल के आने से पहले ही इसकी राइट्स ले ली गई थी. एक BBC और एक ब्रिटिश कंपनी ने इसकी राइट्स ले ली थी, और उन्होंने 6 साल तक राइट्स एक्सटेंड करते गए, लेकिन फिर वो 4 बार उन्होंने डायरेक्टर को भी बदला, लेकिन उनसे बात बन नहीं पाई. तो फिर मैंने उनसे कहा कि भाई अब आपके बस के है नहीं लगता है, अब आप छोड़ दीजिए इसको, किसी और को देते हैं. उसके बाद एक चाइनीज़ कंपनी ने इसकी राइट्स ली, उन्होंने भी 1.5-2 साल कोशिश की, और फाइनली एक रियल लाइफ एंटरटेनमेंट करके एक मुंबई बेस्ड एक कंपनी है, वो बहुत समय से इस नावल में बहुत इंटरेस्टेड थे. उन्हें लग रहा था कि बहुत अच्छी इस पर फिल्म बन सकती है, तो उन्होंने ये राइट्स ले ली हैं. और मुझे बहुत खुशी है कि ये नावल जो है ये एक वेब सीरीज़ के रूप में अब दर्शक इसको देख पाएंगे। बहुत जल्दी ही शूटिंग इसी महीने शुरू होने वाली है। मैं अपने आप को एक वीकेंड राइटर मानता हूँ कि सवेरे मंडे टू फ्राइडे सवेरे से शाम मैं अपना दिन का काम करता हूँ। जो मैं डिप्लोमेट हूँ, समय सचिव हूँ, सचिव पश्चिम विदेश मंत्रालय में, मैं वो काम करता हूँ। और जो वीकेंड मिलता है, जो खाली वीकेंड कभी कभी मिल जाता है, उसमें मैं अपने जो है क्रिएटिव इम्पल्सेस को इंडल्ज करता हूँ, कुछ लिख लेता हूँ। तो वो जब रिटायरमेंट हो जाएगा तब फिर मेरी डे जॉब ख़त्म हो जाएगी। उसके बाद मुझे ज़्यादा समय मिल जाएगा कि मैं अपने जो क्रिएटिव साइड ऑफ माई ब्रेन है उसको मैं ज़्यादा इंडल्ज कर सकता हूँ, ज़्यादा समय मेरे पास रहेगा। तो उम्मीद करते हैं कि रिटायरमेंट के बाद, क्योंकि अभी क्या है, मेरी आखिरी नावल 2013 में आई थी, 8 साल हो गए हैं और बिना किसी नावल के। लेकिन अब रिटायरमेंट के बाद उम्मीद करते हैं कि अगले 2-3 साल में एटलीस्ट 2-3 नावल भी आ सकती हैं।
I've watched the Jaipur Literature Festival grow over the years. From where it started is a very, very small little effort in Jaipur itself, and now reached this huge international kind of audience. And I think it's great to be part of something that has such a unique standing and such a huge respect in the literature community. This book has just been released today, Enter Stage Right. And as many of you all know, I belong to the Alkazi family. And many people don't know that my mother is a Padamsi. So it's a combination of Alkazi and Padamsi in the title. Padamsi is from Bombay, my uncle and aunt Alec and Pearl Padamsi, and of course my parents Delhi, Ibrahim and Roshan. So just their journey from the 40s, 50s, 60s through the theatre movement and the art movement.
My association with the festival, I will admit, is entirely by virtue of the friends of mine who make this festival possible year after year. And I'm not only proud but grateful to them that they remind us of how important literature is in our lives, but also how important celebration is. I think it is a challenge of a civilizational proportion to be able to establish empathy through the interface of a screen. It is unheard of. It is unpracticed. It is almost unfair that we have to face that challenge. But yes, this is the way forward, I suppose, to explore the quality of your content such that it can reach across a screen. And if there is one place where you can count on the quality of content, it is JLF.
मैं समझता हूँ कि जयपुर लिटरेचर फेस्टिवल साहित्य और कला से कम जुड़ा एक परंपरा ज़्यादा हो गई, जिसमें लोग आकर के अपनी पुस्तकों के बारे में तो ज़रूर पर और भी बातें करते हैं, जिससे एक बहुत बड़ी परंपरा सभ्य संवाद की जारी रहती है। तो चाहे वो डिजिटल हो या खैर रियल लाइफ में तो ज़्यादा आकर्षित करता है लोगों को, पर डिजिटल में भी इसका होना ज़रूरी है। मैं तो जब से इसका शुरुआत हुई तब से इसके साथ जुड़ा हुआ हूँ, एक लेखक के हैसियत से भी और एक समर्थक के हैसियत से भी।
This is the first time that I'm attending this festival, and I'm very impressed. Not only with the way that it's been organized, of course, the exhibition of books and the selection, but mainly for the selection of those who are participants and the reasons, the very valid reasons as to why some people have been asked to come and present personally, others, of course, have been covered. and the people who are present, the high quality of the intellectuals who are present on the occasion. This is what I find so very impressive. It's exhilarating. It shows how freedom of speech and expression is alive in our country. So it makes me proud of being part of this festival. It makes me proud of being in India. The book is really about my own time with Rajiv Gandhi. It was an interesting time because we started in school together, so school life is covered. But I was there with him when he was Prime Minister at a very vital time in India's history. And because I worked with him while he was Prime Minister, even after he was no longer Prime Minister, because I was there till 87, middle of 87, even when he was not Prime Minister, our friendship continued. And therefore we were able to share ideas about how things were developing in the country and in the world, and exchange those ideas. So that way I felt that I knew a great deal about his thinking. Because naturally in our casual conversations he would and he had this habit of actually taking very extreme stands and inviting argument. That is actually a management technique which I then experienced later, but he had it fully in his hand at that time. So therefore we'd talk, we'd argue, and therefore I was quite clear about his motivations. He was a very fine person, and the fineness of his nature, the high qualities of his nature, and I've described him in the words of Antony regarding Brutus, this was a man. And I felt that since he was a person who can be described as having been a man, the rest of his countrymen, the rest of the world should know the greatness of a person who was a friend to all of us.
Being a kind of almost magical phenomenon nobody is able to explain. I've attended film festival, literary festivals, many of them, many locations, but there was something that caught people's imagination in a way that hasn't happened elsewhere. I mean, one can have reservations about how much money is spent, the glamour, but I think that when you have at least 1,000 people, 3,000 people listening to a serious discussion around books and asking, what I love most when I go to Jaipur is the intelligence and the thoughtfulness of the questions that young people raise, and that makes it worthwhile. See, the lockdown has unleashed, and I think most of us in the middle class don't recognize, it's unleashed what is likely to be the biggest humanitarian crisis of our lifetimes. The homeless also have a lot of dignity, and they were the first, and this swelled to tens of thousands falling over each other. But within almost a week, we started getting messages from the industrial areas, the medium, small, micro enterprises, and they again had long winding lines, and we started giving food there. Now these are people who, they were super exploited. I mean, they were getting 5,000-6,000 rupees. They were not getting even minimum wages, but they had built their lives. I mean, they were earning. They had taken a room on rent. They sent their children to school, and they had suddenly they were abandoned completely, and they couldn't pay their rents. They had their employers, and they didn't blame their employers because the micro, small enterprise owners, they said, were not much more well-to-do than they. They didn't have the money. We have the government, after it was, there was a lot of outrage. Our Prime Minister just says, I appeal to the employers to pay them their wages. This is now I'm a working poor person. I don't want to live on your charity, on chance charity. There's something else also that is important, that only about 15% of informal workers have an identifiable employer, a stable identifiable employer. The others are casual daily wage workers, they go to labor addas, they're rag pickers, they're street vendors, etc. Sex workers. So even if they had listened to the Prime Minister, you were still ensuring charity to 15%. And there was no enforcement mechanism if they didn't comply. So profound lack of concern for our labouring poor, reducing them. And the people, the industrial factory workers were saying that हमने कभी भी हाथ ऐसे करके खाना नहीं दिया. This is for the first time we have to put out our hands and eat. And we had no business to push our hard-working, working poor into this kind of humiliation and shame. We just had no business. And when the middle class continues to praise and celebrate, I realize more and more that the problem is not in our government but in us.
This is one of the most prestigious festivals any artist would love to dream of, but very few are destined to, and I'm so fortunate to be part of this whole festival. And it's a very reputed and a very prestigious festival, and I'm so happy that Mohiniyattam has been showcased here, and to have launched my book, my third book on Mohiniyattam, the art and its aesthetics. And I'm so grateful to Sanjoy Roy and the teamwork for having given me this opportunity to display and to have been given this great wonderful opportunity to share my experience as a Mohiniyattam practitioner. My book is a description of, it narrates my whole journey as a Mohiniyattam explorer, and exploring the various regional traditions of Kerala and how they have been very inspiring to be incorporated some of its most salient features to have been incorporated into my new repertoire and my work on Mohiniyattam. So this has been a very lovely opportunity to share that experience with me.